My parents took my sister on vacation instead of me. Later, she ruined the trip and got arrested. Now my parents finally realize her true colors. I'm a 23-year-old woman with a younger sister, Lisa, 18, who I believe is the true incarnation of evil. I have tried my best to convince my parents over the years, but they never believed me, at least until now. For context, my parents and I have always had a somewhat strained relationship, mainly because of Lisa. My parents absolutely adore her because my mother had a miscarriage, and Lisa, born a few years later, was regarded as their miracle child. My parents showered her with affection, turning her into the center of our family universe. Let me be clear, I loved my younger sister when we were children, but I slowly started realizing Lisa had an incredible talent for manipulation that none of my family members could grasp. She knew how to twist the story in her favor and play the victim card. Once, on my birthday, I received an amazing antique pocket watch from our grandparents. Lisa was jealous and kept asking if I could share it with her. I said no because it was a gift for me on my birthday. That night, Lisa, knowing I was terrified of spiders, placed one inside my pillowcase. I awoke to the horrifying sensation of a spider crawling over my skin and started screaming. My parents rushed in, concerned. Lisa acted surprised and caring, but later admitted to me with a creepy grin that she did it to teach me a lesson. I was shocked by her casual confession and lack of remorse. Another time, I had a crush on my classmate Mark and invited him over to watch a movie. I was excited and had carefully picked out a dress to impress him. As soon as Mark arrived, Lisa deliberately spilled juice on my dress and started laughing at me. I was mortified and had to change, trying to hide my embarrassment. She then told Mark embarrassing stories from my childhood, making me feel humiliated. When Mark was about to leave, Lisa told him he could do much better than me. Mark, uncomfortable the entire time, left in a hurry. I couldn't believe how cruel and cunning my younger sister could be. Over the years, I told my parents about her antics, but they always dismissed them, thinking she was young and naive. They couldn't see her true nature. Whenever I complained, they thought of me as the troublemaker, so I eventually stopped speaking up. Lisa continued being their favorite child while I often felt like the outsider. I focused on my studies and got into a good college, giving me a chance to move out and have a better life. However, every time I returned home, Lisa made it clear she despised having me back. She ignored me, refused basic conversations, and messed with my stuff, damaging or losing things. My parents did nothing when I complained, urging us to get along instead. As a result, I began avoiding coming home during breaks, spending them with college friends' families instead. My parents didn't mind much, thinking I was independent. When Lisa graduated from high school, she didn't have the grades for college, so she settled for community college and never moved out. I now work at a multinational corporation in San Francisco and enjoy my job. I sometimes stay in touch with my parents but rarely visit home, and I don't maintain contact with Lisa. Recently, my father had a near-fatal heart attack. Fortunately, he survived and was rushed to the hospital. When my mother called, I immediately booked my tickets and flew home. The doctors prescribed medications for my father and advised him to start working out. Since being discharged, my father wanted to spend more time with us as a family. I understood and stayed at our house for a few days, working remotely. However, I noticed Lisa was agitated that I was back. I tried to avoid her to prevent arguments. One morning during breakfast, my father suggested a family vacation. Initially, I had reservations, but knowing how important it was to my dad, I agreed. Lisa wasn't thrilled but had no choice. My father made all the arrangements for flights and accommodations. I planned my leave from work in advance and informed my colleagues not to contact me. However, at the airport, I found out my ticket had been canceled. My father insisted he had booked and paid for my ticket. Checking further, it turned out my name's ticket had been mysteriously canceled. I looked at Lisa, who had a sly smile on her face. I realized she had canceled my ticket, probably from my father's computer. I started yelling at her, pointing out that she never wanted me on this vacation. Instead of believing me, my mother dismissed my claim, saying my sister would never do something like that, and that it was just a freak accident. My father suggested it might have been an airline mistake. I was frustrated that my parents couldn't see through Lisa's deception. There was nothing I could do. My ticket was already canceled, and there were no other flights that day. I didn't want to return home, book a new flight, and travel alone for a family trip. I dreaded sharing a room with Lisa, wondering what other schemes she might have in store to make my trip miserable. My father initially hesitated, suggesting they could all go back home and plan a new trip, but then talked about how long it had been since he went on vacation. My mother agreed, saying I always travel a lot for work, so I wasn't going to miss much if I didn't go. Their comments made it clear they didn't care whether I joined them. It became clear they didn't mind going on this family vacation as a family of 3. I decided to return to my home in San Francisco, not wanting to spend another day alone in our family house. I tried to put the incident behind me and focused on enjoying my leave from work. I reconnected with old friends and spent my days engrossed in books, turning my break into a solo staycation. During the trip, my parents sometimes video called me, enjoying their vacation without me. My absence didn't affect their trip. Although I wasn't heartbroken about missing the vacation, I felt excluded, reminded of the favoritism that always existed in our family. I hoped someday they would see Lisa's true nature. A few days into their vacation, I woke up to several missed calls from my mother. Worried about my father's health, I immediately called her back. She sounded distressed and explained that something troubling had happened. My parents noticed my father's essential heart medications were disappearing. They searched their room in vain. My mother went to Lisa's room to borrow sunscreen while Lisa was out and found all the missing medicines in Lisa's bedside table. It was a chilling revelation. My father found all his missing medications. The truth dawned on them: their beloved daughter had jeopardized my father's health. My mother's voice quivered as she asked if they should confront Lisa. I advised her not to speak to Lisa until they were back home to gather their thoughts and evidence. Speaking to Lisa now would be futile as she was a master manipulator. However, something unexpected transpired. My parents confronted her, leading to a late-night call from my father. Lisa had a full-blown tantrum, throwing objects and shouting insults, mainly at my father. She accused him of booking a ticket for me and threatened them if they continued a relationship with me. The situation escalated rapidly until the hotel called the authorities. Lisa was taken into custody, released after 24 hours, and there was nothing my parents could do. Desperate to return home, they discovered their passports and wallets were missing, likely hidden by Lisa. They were stranded in a foreign country. This was the first time my parents saw Lisa for who she really was. My mother, who had defended Lisa for years, begged for my help. I sent them money via Western Union, urging them to find their passports. They finally realized I had been honest about her antics. They apologized for their behavior, but it's hard to forgive them after years of favoritism. I am concerned about what might happen next and persuade my parents to consult a lawyer for a permanent solution. The legal route seems the best way to protect my parents and restore peace to our family. Update: Lisa was arrested again. One night she came at our parents with a knife, terrifying them. The police swiftly took her into custody for assault. My parents decided it was time for a permanent solution. They consulted an attorney for the eviction process, filed a formal notice, and followed legal procedures. The court gave an official order for Lisa to leave the house. Lisa will be out by next week. My parents can finally breathe a sigh of relief. I have stayed in touch with them and plan to bring them to San Francisco for a few weeks. It's a way to give them a break and let them relax after the stress Lisa caused. We can spend quality time together. Update: many suggested getting Lisa checked for mental health issues. Since she's an adult, we can't force her to go for a checkup. Due to her violent outbursts, we don't want to complicate the situation. My parents flew to San Francisco to spend a few days with me, taking time away after the last few months. Around the dining table, my parents opened up, their voices laced with humility and regret. They admitted they had been blind to Lisa's true nature and begged for my forgiveness. My father expressed remorse for not heeding my warnings earlier. My mother acknowledged dismissing my concerns about Lisa's behavior. They voiced the pain of realizing their failure in favoring her. I appreciated their first step in seeking my forgiveness. I shared painful memories of torment due to Lisa's actions. My parents, shocked and dismayed, acknowledged my pain and expressed regret over my isolation. They recounted how their favoritism clouded their judgment. They begged for forgiveness for all those years. It was a bittersweet moment, as I had always wanted their acknowledgement. It brought honesty and clarity to our family dynamic, addressing long-standing issues. I told them it would take time to trust them again. We agreed to work through this together. I plan to make the most of our time together while they're here. Update: my parents and I spent more time together, exploring San Francisco and enjoying meals. Rebuilding our bonds, we sought solace, needing a fresh start. We discussed Lisa's behavior, realizing it might indicate deeper issues. We plan to explore a mental health evaluation, though Lisa can't be forced into it. We aim to encourage her to seek help voluntarily. My parents will reach out to Lisa to discuss, hoping to control her emotions and address family issues. It's not about assigning blame, but coming together as a family to address strained relationships.